to own it. Just wanted to take the time, learn all the things that I could about you. Now it's such a mess here. Oh, we are just stressed here. Used to be so easy with you.
Thank you for coming on the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so tell our viewers who you are and what you do.
So my name is Alisha Brown. I am the founder and president of Project Run Madera. We're a nonprofit organization / community-based organization, and we're pretty much here for the youth, trying to keep them off the street in the sport of running. And we help them out by providing a little bit of equity in the sport, giving them access to things like running shoes, short shirts, apparel, like sports bras.
Oh, cool.
And
They get an
socks.
outfit and everything too?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And we just try to just like level up like with, in terms of like athletes who might not be able to afford some of the cost in the sport. So just kind of making sure that they have like access to it.
That's awesome. Now everyone's on their devices, so how do you get them to put that down so that they can run? What's the challenge there?
Oh man. I mean, really it's up to like coaches on that end, right? I mean, I know I was a coach before for a few years. Yeah, so I coached at the high school level for a few years, and I mean, I didn't allow devices at my practice. So it was just like, put them in the backpacks. They don't come out until you're calling your mom to come pick you up, or your dad, whoever's picking you up, right? But I mean, I've seen it now where kids are like running with the device in their hand. It's like, dude, like, I know. Well, most of them too, they want like their music, right? So I understand that too, but.
So how did you come up with this idea? You saw there was like a need for it?
Absolutely. So two things, right? So there's definitely a need for it, especially like in the Madera, Central Valley kind of area. There's a lot of low socioeconomic kids growing up who don't have access to some of these resources, unfortunately. And I was one of those kids, so that's the other reason.
Oh, I love that. Okay, that's great.
So being like one of those kids is kind of like when you see that there's a need and someone approaches you about that need, and you're like, I absolutely. Like, it's like a duty for me to make sure that I help the next kid out. So that's kind of how it came about. Specifically, in 2017, I signed my first professional running contract, and a middle school coach reached out to me because his girls needed sports bras. And something so simple but very serious for young girls, especially in a sport as running, like you need that support.
And it can get
literally
expensive.
Absolutely. And so we partner now with Bras for Girls, and they're an amazing nonprofit organization, and their specific purpose is to make sure that girls stay in the sport, stay comfortable in any sports, right? And are comfortable within their bodies and in themselves. You know how it is when you're developing as a young woman. It's super tough and it's awkward sometimes, and then imagine not having like the proper support, and you're out there trying to run, but you can't focus on that when, you know, stuff is not where it's supposed to be.
So is it mainly for kids that this is for?
It is. It's for the youth, but we support K through 12. Okay. And we have summer track clinics, and we've had like some graduate kids come. They're still youths, right? They might be in college, but if they can come and get some training from us, absolutely, right? So but focus on the youth, yes.
So how can people get involved if people want to get involved helping?
For sure, go into our website, getting in contact with us, email projectrunmadera@gmail.com. And, it's going to go straight to me. But, I mean, it's really simple as, like, if they want to, become a partner with us.
And it's for girls and boys.
Girls and boys, absolutely. We provide, like, it's like running shoes is like our main target, but then we provide the other pieces of apparel as well. So
I bet parents get frustrated because kids are outgrowing everything like every day. So that's where everything gets costly. It's the outgrowing. Because we have the same pair of shoes for a while, but well,
like as adults, but as
kids are just growing out of like left and right. So is that part of the challenge?
Absolutely. So like we just had our gear drop tour, and that just ended last week. And so we sent out surveys to all these kids. We served over 600 kids, and some of those surveys we got back were that they had received a pair of shoes from the last gear giveaway that we did last year, and that they were still running in those shoes, but they were too small and they couldn't afford to get new ones, and so they were super grateful that they got another pair of shoes, and that they could get a bigger size. And so it's super like it's very, like, we have to be intentional with who we're serving and how we're serving, because we're starting to see that this need, it goes further than what we think.
So what's like the protocol? Are you guys running every time a certain day? You guys go out in groups? How does it work?
So we have to fundraise for our target that we're serving, right? Because we're still small, so we don't just have like a stockpile of resources to give away. So we buy based on the funds that we raise, mainly from our gala that we have usually at the beginning of the year. And
what's the gala?
So I'll be sure to make sure that you're there next year.
How does it work?
So it's literally just like a fundraiser dinner. You get all dressed up and decked out.
And it's usually like in January, February?
And it's usually, around February. And it's just like a fundraiser dinner. And we award a Renatarian Award, someone who's just been like super in our corner helping us out. And then we just eat and dance and have fun and hang out. And
so everyone gets involved in the community and then you just fundraise. That's really cool. Anything else during the year that we could be a part of?
Yeah, so we have, we have an upcoming event, Cinco de PRM. It's going to be May 4th.
Okay, that's fun.
It's going to be super fun.
So what's that?
So we're in the works of getting approved for our temporary use permit from the city of Madera, but it's going to be basically like a car show, a 3K race, and then some kid races. And then kind of like a carnival-like atmosphere. So we'll have some performances from like Folklorico, and we're in the works of getting like a mariachi there. But we're hopeful to have like bounce houses, face painters.
So is that like an all-day event or just a morning event?
It's gonna be like a morning to like 1-ish kind of event.
Well, NAMI's having a running event that day. I know because I'm part of that one.
On the same day?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on that day for sure.
I was like, if it was all day, I could go later, but...
Yeah. So yeah, we're in the works of getting that, and then in July, so that's going to be a fundraiser.
So people can bring their whole family for that.
Absolutely,
okay,
it's going to be like a community-based, like
and that'll
family
be somewhere
event.
in Madera.
Yes,
location. Okay.
It'll be at the Sunrise Rotary Park in Madera.
Oh, perfect. Okay, right on.
Yes, and then that is actually going to be a fundraiser for our summer track clinic in July.
Right on. Okay, so what does that entail, the summer track clinic?
So our summer track clinic, we have it free to grades K through 12, and it's a 2-day event. We bring in professional runners. Wow. We bring in college coaches. We feed them breakfast and lunch. We get like community sponsors or partners within the community that'll help us to, feed them. And then basically they get coaching on one day. Well, they get coaching both days, but the first day is more so where they're learning like techniques for running, jumping, and throwing. They can try all the different things that they wanted to try and track, but maybe haven't. Or, for some of our younger kids, they're like, what is that throwing thing? I want to see. So, they get to try out all these things. And then on the following day, we have like a mini track event, a really like a small track meet. Yeah.
So what about other people want to get their kids involved that like in some of the rural communities? Because, it kind of goes, Madera's very rural, but then you get some parts of like Fresno that kind of like seep in. Yeah. How do you guys kind of like decipher, hey, you can be a part of this or not?
It's open to everyone. So our track clinic is open to everyone. So 2 years ago when we first had our very first track clinic, it hosted about 200 students.
That's impressive for the first year.
Absolutely. And we had kids coming in from Fresno as well.
That's cool.
So we're super open to it. And I know people confuse it because, it says Madera in the title. So they're like, oh, it's a Madera thing.
That's good that it does it. I'm glad. It's not exclusive. Okay.
It's not just, we like to say it's like we can give a slice of Madera to everyone.
No, and that's great.
From Madera,
so do you guys keep track of like different things? You guys have like accountability teams where it's like, you guys kind of track in, we did this today, these are our miles, or this is our weekly thing that we did, or this is how we did it?
Kind of, sort of. We have kind of like spelled out what our goals are for the year. This Cinco de PRM event kind of just was like, oh, we need to fundraise for our track clinic. So we just kind of made that wasn't in our goals. But at the end of the year, we kind of do sit down and say, okay, like this is what we did well. This is what we need to improve on. This event was good, or this was excellent. This is how we, you know what I mean? So we sit down as a team. I have a great team that makes sure we get things
really
done.
That's really cool.
Absolutely.
Well, what about for the kids? Do they track what they're doing, like your miles? How do we know what the kids are?
So
have their improvement in their life. I imagine like some of the people that are fundraising kind of want to know, hey, so what is the difference? I'm sure that you see a lot of differences when these kids start with you guys.
Yeah, so I mean, as of recently, the survey is kind of helping us to understand
That's
that. Good. Yeah, we've been getting like surveys in the last week, and it's been really really comforting but eye-opening as well to, you know, see how we're helping them. There's a question on the survey that asks like how these shoes have helped them or how it will help them. And so that's something that we're using. But as far as like tracking each individual athlete, we're not tracking them per se, but what we do kind of hope that these shoes are basically keeping them involved in the sport of track, which is, you know, inevitably keeping them out of trouble on the street, right?
I totally understand
Giving them some focus, giving them something to like aspire to, have some goals for themselves, and have some accountability, you know, within the track community from their coaches, from their, you know,
well, that's what I'm saying. Do they
peers.
communicate within, like they communicate with each other and say, hey, this is what we're doing, these are our goals, like on the weekly?
I mean, I will hope so.
Okay.
I will hope so. So in the future, we do plan to have like some health and wellness programs, which would like have some goal setting things in there. We've done it in the past, but it's not like a recurring thing right now. It's in the works of becoming a program like within our programs. So that's not so exactly like what we do like within our nonprofit yet. Okay. That's just kind of like what coaches, I guess, would do, you know.
Do you work with the coaches, though?
We do.
Oh, okay, so then they're kind of telling you the progress.
Yeah. Coaches update us all the time. They're always sending us, like, you know, PRs and our personal records that kids are hitting.
That's awesome. Do they come in to tell you, too, when there's a need, with kids are struggling, and be like, well, these kids need this, or we need more this year, funding in this? Are they communicative like that?
Yeah, like we've had like a middle school coach that kind of tell us, like, you know, that they're like most of those kids don't have track spikes. So he's like, you know, we need track spikes, and they share them. So basically, like if we could get like a bunch of like whatever sizes you have from this size to this size. So Bertha literally just went and dropped off.
So
yeah,
cool.
She's amazing.
That is
she went
so
and dropped
cool.
off a box of
your
spikes for them.
communication really goes with the coaches.
Absolutely.
And they're the ones that are tracking the kids' success.
Yes.
That's perfect. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's how they're communicating with each other.
So because we've been around now for a little bit of time, coaches are understanding that they can reach out to us, and we're there for that specific reason. Like if you need something,
and that's good because they're telling you what they need. They know, like, you know, we'll go with this and make do with this. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And how come the schools are not as involved with all of that or the funding? I'm sure you have a little insight on that.
You know, that's a great question. Why the schools are not. I mean, I know that they provide them with like their regular, you know, outfits and things. I think the schools, for the most part, they expect the team to fundraise on their own, which is difficult sometimes. You know, you got six schools, middle schools and high schools in Madeira, and you know the funds, you know, to make it to every school team is difficult, especially if you're talking about like giving shoes to a team of, you know, 60 to 80 kids.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's really difficult. So I know like how I got through and how I got by, and like a lot of teammates of mine, our coaches bought our shoes for us.
Wow, that's so nice.
Yeah.
So you kind of became what you had.
Absolutely. Well, that's the goal.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, and that's one of the biggest reasons why, right? Because it was like my coaches did this for me. You know, I have family members who also helped out. You know, and
did you stay in contact with the coaches?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, one of my coaches, because I still run elite, not in this very moment, but he's my coach, like as an elite runner, Coach Velarde, and then Coach Paris, who was he's still active in the community. He's in Chowchilla now, but you could tell we went to drop off some shoes and gear at Chowchilla, and like the kids were they were amazing. So I know for sure he's continuing his legacy.
What did they think about you that you started doing this? They helped you out. Now you kind of like paid it forward.
They tell me I'm doing a great job all the time. So it's a full circle moment all the time when we talk about it, because it really is. The thing that they told me, because you know, there's no way I could ever thank them for it, right? Like there's just. They give me too much, you know.
Yeah, you're paying it forward.
And that's how I pay them back, and that's what they told me. It was like, when you have the chance to give back, when you become successful, that's what you do. That's how you pay me back. And like I literally took that to heart. So,
is this your full-time job, what you do, or is this just part-time?
I wish. So that is the goal. Eventually, this is what I want to do, like with my life. But right now, I am a teacher. And it's getting harder and harder to maintain both, because we are growing as a nonprofit, and so it's like maintaining 2 full-time jobs, and I'm a mother of 3.
Oh my goodness, girl! Yeah. And you still run. I heard you still run. That's the rumor.
Yeah. Rumor has it. Yeah. So
that's so impressive.
Yeah.
Wow. How long have you had this again?
So Project Run Madeira, it's been around officially as a nonprofit for 3 years. But again, started doing this in 2017. So and it was sporadic then. It wasn't like I was doing this. It was like as a need basis,
and
right?
then when it became a nonprofit, you're like, hey, we gotta go.
And then it was like full steam ahead.
How'd you get a team like to help you out?
To be honest, I was like, I just started kind of like reading up on like how do you build a nonprofit team, and I was just like thinking like who could help me. And literally the first person I thought of was Bertha Valgoza. She's like my second brain, I always say. Like without her, Project Run Madeira goes nowhere. So I knew she knew numbers. I knew she, worked in taxes. I knew she just knows a little bit of everything.
Like you said, it's going to get different brains in here because you have different things.
And so like she was like the first person, and I was like, I have this vision, I have this idea, this is what I want to do, can you help me? And she was like, absolutely, like count me in, like when do we start? And we just kind of started building from there, like, okay, who else do you think we could bring on? And not everybody stayed on from the very beginning. We rebuilt a little bit, and it's no hard feelings, like I love them very much, but like as we grew and started to expand, it was just like very demanding of our time. Bertha could tell you like we work late nights doing some things, and I'm always on my computer, working, networking, and getting things done. So I do know it is demanding, and so not everyone can, we're not getting paid right now to do this.
Oh,
so,
I bet.
It's all volunteer work.
Oh my goodness. And then you said you had one company that was kind of donating the bras. Do you have other apparel companies of shoes that are like got involved?
Absolutely. So Bras for Girls, they've been with us from the very beginning. Fleet Feet Fresno, they've been with us from the very beginning. Okay. They are, a running shoe company here, and they were actually around when I was a kid, and my coaches would go to them for my shoes. So again, another full circle moment.
I love that. This is so great.
Yeah, so the Szymanskis, they are amazing, total givers, hearts of gold. And so they've been with us from the very beginning, and then they've kind of brought on people to partner with us. So Karu, they're a shoe company, and they give us some of the best deals. We know Nike just opened, so if Nike wants to help us out,
come on, guys, come on.
We know we have a Nike store here in Fresno now, so we'll be banging on their door soon. But let's see, we got Features. They help us with the socks. And then Brooks Running, they've helped us with like getting running shorts. And Wazelle in the past, they've helped us with running shorts as well.
So what as a community can we do? You have the event coming up on May 4th. And if we just want to donate money, we go straight to the website?
Yeah, straight to the website. There's donation links there. If someone out there wants to make like a big donation and they're like, I don't like websites, they can absolutely like find my information on the website and then get in contact with me, and I can give them a phone call. So. And
then all the social media, you guys keep us in like ahead of like what you're doing. So yes. About that event, this event, the July clinic. So what do we have to follow?
So if you just follow our social medias, we basically will post everything.
So it's there. Madeira Run for everything? Is it Madeira Run?
Project Run Madeira.
Project Run Madeira on Facebook and Instagram and whatever else.
Right. So we're Project.
That's easy. We get Project Runway and just take out the way and put
Madeira. You know what? That's actually where I got it from.
Okay, I like that. Hey, it's easy to remember.
Yeah,
so.
I was, trying to figure out like what to call it, and I called it that before we actually became a nonprofit. So it was really cool, actually. When the first event that we made, Project Run Madeira, someone reached out to me that we had given like sports bras and running shorts to like a few years ago, and she was just like, it was so amazing. It helped me with this and that, and I was like, oh my God, I had to do this again. So. Yeah, it's really cool when we get that kind of feedback and we get to know what these kids are doing. And I know how it feels, again, like, coming up and not having it. So being able to give that to those kids and kind of just seeing their reactions.
Are you a teacher in Madeira?
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So you get to see a little bit of it too.
I do. One of my students, actually, he didn't know that like I was the founder of Project Run Madeira. So he's like wearing his Project Run Madeira shirt. And I was like, hey, nice shirt. And he was like, thanks. What do you know about Project Run Madeira? And I was just like, are you pulling my leg? Like, are you joking? And he was like, no, what do you know? And I was like, that's me in the silhouette running. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, what? And so
I love that.
It was pretty cool when they actually see me on campus and they're like, oh, hi, you know, and it's really cool.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Everyone that can go on May 4th to the events. It seems like a fun event for kids.
Yes.
So people can go in and get some tickets.
Absolutely. And I forgot to mention, once we do get that approval for the temporary use permit, we will be giving the first 100 running slots to Madera Unified and Madera County kids. So it'll be free for those kids, for the first 100 to register. Okay. After that, it's just $5. So for kids, super.
Kids. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, adults, we gotta make the money somewhere. So
we can pay.
Adults can pay the $25.
Yes, we can pay the $25. Thank you so much for coming on my show.
Thank you for
today.
having us.
Welcome back, Bill. How many times have you been on this show?
I think this is going to be number 8.
Wow, the most guests that's ever been back. Do you feel special?
It's like a bad penny. Just keep coming back.
But you never lose your shine.
No, well, I hope not. You know.
So we have really cool things going on, Cal. So that's another cool thing. Every time you come back, there's better and better things we have to talk about. Like we're adding, we keep adding.
Oh yeah, we're constantly adding things. More airplanes coming in. Since I've been on the show last time, the Black Bunny Phantom showed up. So the restoration hangar is completely full. And so we got 4 projects in work right now. And so our F-102 is getting ready to get put out on display. It's finished. And then we still have the F-117, the Huey helicopter, and then the Black Bunny Phantom.
And you're like an unveiling for one of them soon, right?
Correct. Yeah, we're going to unveil the F-102 when we put it out on the pad. Pad's poured. We're just waiting for it to cure out so it'll support the weight of the airplane.
Oh, wow.
All right.
How long does that usually take?
It takes about 30 days depending upon the weather.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's almost ready. We got a couple weeks and then we can roll it out.
So that should be ready for the big 420 event, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so
correct.
what's happening on the 420 event?
Well, we're going to have our car show and a Bombs Away car show. And we're expecting about 200 cars. And the cars will be spread out throughout the museum. And so it's going to be a great day. We'll have food vendors, of course. Plenty of things to do.
Classic cars and classic planes.
Classics, hot rods. It just runs the gamut.
I love that, and then everyone gets to take the photos. That's like the really coolest thing, is that where do you get one spot where you could take photos next to the planes and the cars, like a one-stop shop?
Correct, yeah. So, and this year I think we're going to do a little more spreading them out instead of bunching them up towards the front, so that all the airplanes can be covered in this way.
Make people walk.
Yeah, exactly.
Make them walk their lunch off.
Well, you got to go ahead and cover that 38 acres, you know. How to get your exercise in.
How fun. Okay, so that's April 20. And the weather should be pretty good by then.
The weather, yes. We're hoping that we'll have turned the corner by then, and we'll have some great weather for that. Should be in the 80s, which would be really nice.
And then May is going to be open cockpit.
May is open cockpit, exactly right, May 18th. So
So every
Mark
month
your
we have
calendars.
something.
Yeah, well, it kind of goes that way. And then for the summer, when the heat really hits and we die off, and then we come back, in October and November. October will be the second car show of the year, and then on the 5th of November will be the Open Cockpit Day.
We have some events in between, though, right? Between May and then?
Right now, we're working on the golf tournament.
Right, okay.
Which will be in June. We haven't nailed down a date just yet. That should be set up sometime this week.
But no more taps and with the breweries and the wines. We don't do that anymore.
That was something that just didn't go over well, and the attendance was really down. And the museum really did make a lot of money on that particular event. So it was kind of how much are you going to put out in terms of effort versus what you're going to get in return.
Because people just have no idea how much effort goes into it. Whenever there's an event, you have to wash all the planes.
Oh yeah. Well, we want to make sure that the grounds are presentable. When you got 38 acres of grass, that's a lot of lawn mowing. We have a guy who just does nothing but sit on the lawnmower, during spring and the summer and in the early fall. So we have to keep those down. Then, of course, you have to wash the airplanes because around that time is when the farmers start to get going. And so you get a lot of dust which gets in the air, which is natural. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But we just have to keep the airplanes cleaner than what we normally would, say, in the wintertime.
So what I was so excited about the last Open Cockpit, something you promised me every Open Cockpit, and this time you finally had it.
Yes. Richard Ambersini of Ambersini Helicopters came and did flights, and he was really impressed with the museum, and he'll be back for this Open Cockpit.
And then you also had the air balloon too.
Yes, the air balloon, he canceled, but from what I understand, he's a go for this Open Cockpit, and I think it tethers up to 100 feet, and then it'll drop down. So it's not a free-floating balloon.
Well, that's super exciting. And then now there's a cafe, if you will, in the museum store, in the museum shop.
Yeah, in the gift shop. We had a space that we used to have. We served sandwiches and things of that, bomber burgers and things of that nature. We closed that down a long time ago, and it was just empty space. So this young lady came in. She had an idea to open up a coffee shop, and it's called the Copper Wings Cafe.
How fun.
Yeah, and so she opened it up here about 4 months ago now. And it's been a big hit, and it gives people a place to have a cup of coffee, drink a soda, sit down, relax.
Then she had some sandwiches. She had a few things going on.
Does.
She has some potato salad was great. She had homemade potato salad.
Yes, she has sandwiches, homemade potato salad, all kinds of different things that are cold.
And what's great about that is people can go there and do that all week long. Every time you guys are open, that's something that's
correct.
There. I saw the hours, so that was like something that was offered.
Yeah. Well, that kind of changes in the summer versus the winter, just because the attendance isn't as much, in the winter than it is.
Yeah,
in the
so that's
summer.
even going to be better. Yeah, I know that was great that you guys have that now. And then you guys do have a brewery that's like really close to everything. That was like walkable almost.
Yeah.
You guys have this kind of like on the grounds. So.
Right. Well, it's not on the museum grounds. That's a special entity that the city set up, the city of Atwater. You have food trucks and the old brewery. That brewery that you saw was actually the old gas station.
Really?
Yes, when the base was active.
Wow.
Right. And that sat desolate for years. And then finally somebody said, hey, I think I can turn this into something. And he's been expanding a little bit by little bit.
I love that. Well, and that's what we needed because it's like, it is Atwater. Everything's a little kind of spread out. So it's nice that we have a cafe we can go to. After that, you can go hit the brewery, and you have a lot to do right there.
Right.
You have a full days of activities right there.
Yeah, it's Castle, the former base is starting to change, and it's starting to bring in a whole lot of new business, on the base itself. So we're real happy to see the amount of change, because for so long, for 30 years, it just sat basically desolate. And but a lot of reason why that is because those buildings that the Air Force built are purpose-built buildings. So not every civilian business can go in there because the power requirements are completely different, So it is nice that that is finally being used.
It seems like things are going a little more quickly because you had planes in the restoration for like 4 years, and it seems like now they're getting out like the Bunny plane. You said that's going to probably be out like in a year or so, and that hasn't been in there like as long. So why is everything moving kind of faster?
Well, some airplanes have been sitting out on the grounds for a long time. So they do collect water, and water is basically a corrosive. And so it really is a detriment to the well-being of the airplane. So when the guys bring the airplane in for repaint, while they're sanding, they do a corrosion inspection. And so a lot of corrosion on some airplanes, like the F-102, is mainly made out of magnesium. So there's a lot, and magnesium extremely corrosive. So they had to go in and literally almost rebuild the entire spine of that airplane.
Wow.
So so it was in there for a long time. And then we had other projects which came in, like the helicopters that we got from Hawaii. We've talked about that on your show. And so we've had some other things that kind of back that up. So it's really not the fault of anybody else. It's just kind of the way things fell out. Nice thing about the Black Bunny Phantom is that it was preserved at the desert for 30 years. There's nothing wrong with it. We just need to clean it, sand it, and put a new paint job on, and it can literally roll out onto the grounds.
No, that's great. And eventually they're all going to go undercover with all the planes.
Yes.
So you guys are working on that plan right now.
Correct. And that has really gone ahead and gained traction. We sent out a proposal, like an RFQ, to a bunch of different places that build buildings like this. And I think we had 4 people say that they'd like to participate in the project. Now the museum, we talked about it the other night at the board of directors meeting, was that we got to pick one, and then we'll award the contract. And then we're kind of hoping we can start to break ground in October, November timeframe. I think we'll probably push it after, the car show or open cockpit day.
I love it. That's so awesome.
Yeah. We're really pushing forward, and we do have some really exciting news. We just found out last week. We are looking at right now. We're on the list to get a U-2 spy plane.
Wow.
And they're retiring. The first of the last batch that they actually made in the 80s, and they're they're a U-2S model. And so we're on the list. They called the National Museum, said, hey, would you be interested? Yes, we would. There's a good chance that it'll fly in, and then the demill team will come and demill the airplane.
Wow, it's still flyable. That's so cool.
And then otherwise we may get one that's in storage down at Palmdale. And that means we'd have to truck it up and then put it together, put a paint job on it, and stick it out. The cool thing about that is you'll be able to see a U-2, an SR-71, a 117 stealth fighter, and a D-21 drone, all in the same spot.
Wow, that's so cool.
Right, and so not many museums can say that they have that, which is really, really nice. And we're kind of looking at putting all that undercover. Yeah, so it do a kind of a nice collection there.
And so you guys are working on a YouTube channel.
Right. Yes.
What's going to be on the YouTube channel?
Well, we got 12 episodes in the can right now, which we did on Saturday, and we have a nice young lady. I can't remember what her name is, but anyway, Ms. Sparkle is kind of hosting it, and she's interviewing all of the crew chiefs that actually maintain the airplanes, some of the staff, some of the people in the gift shop, just kind of bringing out the people that make Castle Air Museum function. And but we're going to have a weekly episode, and Drew of Radical Christianity is putting it all together, and so it should launch hopefully the 1st of May.
I think it's crazy because, interviewing everybody and being with the planes for so long, everyone had even more new stories I never heard before, especially like the Air Force one. They were talking about some of the things that I didn't know from the last time. So there's just so many, they're kind of endless.
They are, yeah. I don't think you could write a book big enough to put all the stories that go on. But the nice thing about majority of the airplanes that we have at the museum, they're unique and they have a story behind them, and that's really the cool thing. Like the B-29, supposedly it's haunted, and we have stories about, a lot of the airplanes.
Haunted planes.
Yeah, and but the good news is too is that we've hired a restoration gentleman who works on the grounds. And right now he's in the middle of doing the KC-97, repainting and refurbishing it, and well as the B-25. Last year we were really lucky. We got the B-24 and the B-17 completely repainted. And so some of these airplanes hadn't been painted since the mid-90s. So they were starting to show their age. And so we had to do something. So we
just like the rest of us, we put makeup on. We start to show our age.
Exactly. There you
got to
go.
paint them.
There you go. But no, it's things are happening, and it's all positive. Which is really, really good. And I'm very happy that we're going in this direction. Once we get the building up, it'll be.
Well, that'll take a while, though.
Well, if we break ground in the fall, we should have it up by March, probably no later than April.
Really?
Right now, is what kind of the
really? We're
projected
looking
thing
at a
is.
year? Wow.
Yeah. Well. Yeah,
I didn't think it would be that soon.
Yeah, about 5 months.
Okay.
To get it all up, because you got to pour the concrete.
I thought it was going to take a lot longer. I'm surprised it's going that quickly.
Right. Well, the big thing is the pad.
Right.
Because you got 150 feet by, whatever, $5 million will buy. So you're probably looking at almost 600 feet, but a foot thick, because they have to support the weight of the airplanes. We're not talking about Volkswagens here. We're talking about airplanes that weigh, thousands and thousands of pounds. So, but we want to put them in, and I think the first building we're going to put up is going to have kind of the crown jewels. And then we'll work our way around the museum. So, but the master plan is going to be put forth, probably before summer.
Nice.
Where exactly it's going to go.
So for the April 20th event, I hope everyone comes out. It's going to be my first car show that I've been at. Do the people that own the cars come and talk about the cars? Like, everyone who talks about the plane. Do we have the car owners to give the history on the cars as well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Majority of your car owners are there with their cars.
Right.
They only leave if they, you're going to go get something to eat or.
Well, I know some of them might have multiples. That's what it's kind of like.
We've had some people who brought as much as 6 cars.
Right. So I was just wondering if they were going to kind of stick around, hover, and be like, okay, we have this. Because it's fun to get the history of the planes and the cars. That's fun.
Right. And but nice thing about it is that they kind of cruise around the airplanes too, because it's something that they don't see every day. So yes.
But that's good. They're nice. So people can come and get a lot of fun info on Saturday, April 20th.
Oh yeah. You're gonna get a lot of information, and we're gonna have the F-16 open. We'll have the canopy open so people can come in and look at it. Kind of a prelude to open cockpit, and so that'd be fun, and so it ought to be a really good time. It always is, anyway.
I love that we're doing it when the weather's nice.
Well, yeah, because once the heat hits, it can be a really miserable day, as you well know. Because you were out there, I think, for a couple open cockpits that was well over 100 degrees. And it's not a lot of fun. And we've recognized that because the age of our volunteers is getting up there. and 60, 70, 80 years old. And it's hard for them to be out there when it's 108, 109. So, and it's hard on the public, and we've recognized that. So pulling them back or making them a little early in the year and then pushing them back into the year where we can get them in the 80s, maybe the low 90s, it's a heck of a lot better than, 105, 106.
Definitely.
So so that's what we try to do.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today. And everyone needs to follow Castle Air Museum. There's a website. There's also Facebook and Instagram. So just follow and then find out what's going on.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we launched our new website here about 2 months ago. So if you're coming to the car show, you can go ahead, you can register your car online and get all the information.
Oh yeah, and so everyone come on out, get your tickets, and bring that. It's a really fun time to bring like all kinds of people. When you don't know what to do or whatever.
Right.
Because it's the kind of event you could bring the kid and the grandpa, like all of it. When you're like out of things to do or like where can we take them all? It's like the best thing.
Yeah, it's spread out. It's
right.
38 acres is a lot of room, and you can see everything. So and get your exercise, walking around. So it'll definitely be a great time. So I hope everybody comes out.
Thank you. I will be there. I will see you on April 20.
You will.
Thank you for coming on the show today.
Good to be here.
Okay, so tell our audience what you do now and then the history of how you got started in this.
Well, actually, I actually spent most of my career in technology sales, and this was kind of a midlife crisis. I actually found myself up in the mountains fighting forest fires and Cal Fire. And then when I came back from that, I realized that I didn't want to be in an office anymore. So in my mid-40s, I started climbing trees and becoming a certified arborist. So,
that's a really cool story, actually.
So during the pandemic, I found myself in Las Vegas working in the heat, and the company I was with, they wanted to know, why are you, who was in enterprise sales, working at a $15 an hour job as a groundsman in Las Vegas? I said, well, because I knew you wouldn't hire me as a salesperson with no experience, so I decided to become a groundsman. They thought that was amazing, and they decided to give me the office that was opening here in Fresno, and that's why I came here 3 years ago.
Where'd you live before Vegas?
Southern California.
Wow, so you really did a little triangle there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Southern California, the pandemic moved me to Vegas, and then from there I came out to Fresno, and I've been here ever since.
And that must have been interesting. You went through different climate change and just a completely different experience each place.
It was, and it's actually great because I spent most of my career doing something that was very lucrative, but I didn't like it. And now I'm doing something I absolutely love, which is working with trees. And
making no money. Just kidding. I'm kidding.
And there's pretty good money too, yeah.
But it must have been interesting. I mean, being in the Central Valley, that's like the hub of where all of this, everything happens with trees. You have all kinds of trees. So that's where you got your experience and the difference between farming trees and what you're doing, because you're mainly in industrial.
Yeah, industrial. We do some residential, mostly it's industrial. My company, Elite's been in the Valley for about 35 years. And they just recently started a tree service, and they asked me to head it up, and I came over, and I've been doing that for 2 years with Elite. One of the things I've been doing with Tree Fresno, which is a nonprofit that's been here also for over 35 years, we actually plant trees in underserved communities within Fresno and other counties. What we're trying to do is promote the urban canopy, trying to get more tree equality so that these areas where trees have been removed, we'll get them back in there. We'll get rid of the urban heat zones that are being caused right now. And we think we've planted over 25,000 trees in the last 30 years. So that's pretty good.
Right, that's really great. So what's happening now? You going to educate us on some stuff that's news to me, because I don't know a lot about tree topping and why it's about what we're supposed to do. So our audience probably doesn't know a lot either. So let us know. What are we not supposed to do?
So something big happened in London. A suburb of London apparently is well known to the artist Banksy. He's a world famous artist. The founding fathers of the community decided to take an ancient tree, a giant cherry tree, and just completely cut it in half. They tore every branch off of it. There's absolutely no leaves on it left.
And where was this at?
This is in London, a suburb of London.
Oh, so that actually happened. Okay, I knew that the painting is in London, but then, okay, that actually happened.
So what happened is that it was a community uproar, and I guess Banksy heard about it, and one night he actually went out, and there happened to be a white wall behind the tree.
Okay.
And he took that giant white wall, and it served as a perfect canvas, and he actually sprayed a bunch of green paint behind it that almost replicated a canopy, and then he painted a man in the corner with a spray hose and a bucket, and it's a pretty neat art piece.
Oh, so we pretty much did that right behind the tree,
Exactly.
the actual tree.
So
Okay.
if you actually look directly at the tree, you're going to see the tree that's had all the leaves taken off of it, and then a fake canopy behind it.
That is really
It's
cool.
a really neat art piece. It really is.
And they left it there to be like.
And you know what? The graffiti abatement team for the community decided not to take it down
Wow.
because it is considered an art piece. So that's pretty cool.
That's kind of risky. Like.
It's also, his stuff he's done in the past has gone for millions of dollars.
Right. So they were like.
So they said, well, we have $1 million piece in the community now.
That's the way you get away with graffitiing. If you
But what it did is it shed light on a problem that we have right now in our industry. It's called tree topping. Some people call it pollarding. Pollarding is an actual practice that's actually accepted, but it's done for certain trees like mulberry trees and crepe myrtles. But mostly it's done in agriculture. It's done to cut the tree in half, keep the fruit low so that the pickers can actually get to the fruit. What also it does is every time you cut a big branch, it creates more branches. So it's like the head of a hydra. You cut off the head of the hydra, 10 more sprout out. Same with a tree. Well, that's good for fruit. It's bad for people in an urban environment. If you're trying to prune your tree so that your property looks nicer, don't top it. If you're trying to prune your tree so that it's not blocking your signage for your business, don't top it. If you're trying to do something in the community where you don't want to have an expensive tree to prune all the time, don't top it. Topping is tantamount to the strip mining of our industry. Anybody who does it does not have your best interest as a customer in mind.
So chopping, it's taking out more than you're supposed to pruning.
Exactly.
What did you say? It was like 75?
25% is the maximum you're supposed to take off of a tree per season, because it can throw the tree into shock and it could die. Now, why would somebody do that who's in the industry?
Why?
To make more money.
Okay.
Because if the tree goes into shock and it dies, it costs about 10 times what it would cost to prune the tree properly to remove that tree. If it's a $200 tree pruning, it's a $2,000 tree removal.
Okay.
So they make more money. The other thing it does is when you top a tree, it creates a lot more growth, a lot more fullness. So if you're trying to do it where you can see your property or your signage, you just shot yourself in the foot. You basically made it so that next year it's going to be even more difficult. What we're trying to do is teach people, let these trees grow, prune them properly, let them get above your signage. Otherwise, for the rest of your existence, you're going to be having a tree directly in front of your sign every year. The other part is if you kill the tree, you're going to have expensive removal. So you'll notice that everywhere in Fresno, in the South County, in the south part of Fresno, you'll see big fuzzy hat racks. They don't even look like trees anymore.
And that's because they were all topped.
They were all topped.
And nobody knew that when they were getting the people to come and like prune them. It was like, did everyone get duped? I mean, how
yes,
do you?
Yes, they did. They got duped. The customers really don't understand what you're supposed to do to a tree and what you aren't supposed to do. And it's our job in our industry to educate our customers. So, and it's happening slowly. But to do that in other cities is actually a crime, and it's actually punishable by a huge fine. In Sacramento, if you were to top a tree, the tree police of Sacramento will come out and they will measure each branch that you cut, and they will charge you $50 per diameter inch per branch. That could get astronomical.
Do people even know that? Is this something that common people know?
Well, they do in places like Sacramento that value their trees.
Because I'd be upset if all of a sudden I get a bill, I'm like, I didn't know.
But if you look at a place like Sacramento, you can see it's just lush and it's green and there's huge trees everywhere. In Fresno, there has become this problem with insurance companies where if a tree gets over your house, they want to cut it down or they want to cut it up.
So why do we have that problem here?
It's insurance companies who don't really understand, what risks there are associated with trees.
Do the insurance companies over in Sacramento understand? I mean, it's
well, in Sacramento, they don't even fight with them because they know that they're going to defend their trees.
Okay.
Because in Sacramento, there's over 1.5 million trees over I think it's 20 feet that they actually catalog and they protect.
Wow, okay.
So, and then they had a huge news article about a few months ago when we had the big storms go through, that 1,000 trees went down. Well, that's less than 0.1%. That's not a lot of trees compared to 1.5 million trees. So it was sensationalized. So we really don't want people thinking that just because a tree is big, it's going to hurt you. It's very, very remote that anything will happen with that. especially if you prune it properly. And that's what we're trying to promote. We're trying to get people to not top trees by educating people about topping. The Banksy thing is really going to help us out quite a bit. And it's educating people, and that's perfect. That's why we like to come on the show right now, and Tree Fresno asked me to be here and say, hey, Joe,
right.
You're really against topping. You really help out in the industry. Could you talk about that? I said, I'd love to. That's great. So
what can we do from here on out as a community? What do we need to do?
Well, organizations like Tree Fresno, nonprofits, they're planting trees all the time. Go to the Tree Fresno website and help us plant some trees. We have a 90 tree planting event coming up on the 30th. Which would be great. If someone can come out for that, help us plant some trees there. There's also calling and making sure that your arborist is certified. You can call the ISA, International Society of Arboriculture, and you can actually look them up online, and you can see if the person you're working with is a certified arborist. If they are, they'll have a number associated with that. If they tell you that they're licensed to be an arborist in the city, that means absolutely nothing, because you or I with zero training can go to the city hall and get a license for tree trimming. There's no certifications required to get a license. To be certified as an arborist is a 3-hour exam that requires 3 years of minimum of experience in the industry.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And then there's advanced certifications after that.
Well, what do we do now if we are in a property that the tree's been topped or whatever stuff? Like, what are we supposed to do from here on out, like with our yards and like knowing this information?
Well, the damage has mostly been done.
Okay.
And you just can monitor the tree every year. Some trees can come back from topping. Most don't. Some will, over time, will look better. Some just don't.
So there is a protocol for that of how to take care of a tree.
It's very, very difficult to remediate a tree that's already been topped. We've had communities where the trees were topped, and the HOA just went absolutely nuts, going, can't believe you let that happen, and boards have been dismissed and new boards have come in. It's a big deal. We've actually had some trees that had to be removed because they were topped and they were damaged, and that caused an entire board to be removed in one of our communities because the trees were really, really old.
Wow.
But because someone allowed them to be topped by the lowest bidder, the trees had to be removed because they were a hazard. And that was on the news, and it made the association look bad, it made the community look bad. So people just need to be educated on what you should and should not do to trees. I'm not a hippie about many things, but trees are one of them, and they need to be protected.
Well, and then, you said we can definitely help plant the trees. But what do we do as a community how do we get to Fresno to be like Sacramento, where we have, how do we get that?
That's a good question. We're trying to work with some of the city administrators to bring this problem to light, because trees do lend to not only reducing the heat of the urban canopies, but they also promote the value of the business or the house that it's in front of. Property values can go down when you take out all the big trees.
Right.
And a good evidence is, look at South Fresno. There's no trees in that area. There's none. They were all cut down because people didn't have the money to properly prune them. So the trees were cut down, or the city took them out. Now you look at a place like Fig Garden, where the trees are all 60, 70, 80 feet tall. And those housing values are through the roof. But if you look at the houses, it's the same architecture. They're old architecture. There's nothing really new there. And what's happening right now is the new houses that are being developed, when the old houses are torn down, they're getting rid of all the trees in Fig Garden.
Exactly.
And that's going to be a problem as well. Your trees account for 10 to 20% of your property's value. So removing healthy, mature trees is just lowering your own property value.
Yeah, a lot of these new developments, you just have baby trees. They don't even have any real trees that have been there.
And the other thing is developers need to start working with organizations like mine and Tree Fresno to put the right tree in the right place.
So that the value can be good over,
exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
when Elite goes in and they make, they do a landscape installation, we make sure we put the right tree in the right spot where it's not going to have invasive roots, where it's not going to have such a canopy so large that it impacts the house. We put them in the right spot, and we put them the right trees in the right place for the right environment. Tree Fresno, the same thing. They focus on native trees that are drought tolerant. So it's really, really important that the right tree is put in. Otherwise, 10 and 20 years down the road, when the people who put them in are gone and retired, you don't have this big expensive problem.
That's a lot of education to know about trees.
It took me by surprise. I didn't know there was so much to trees when I first got in the industry.
Right.
My knowledge was bark beetle abatement, cutting down dead trees in the forest, and I just loved doing that. And I knew I couldn't make a living at CAL FIRE doing that, but when I came into the private sector, I realized if I became an arborist, that there'd be a lot of opportunity, and there has been. So it's been working really well for me.
So what's going on in England now? That was just a certain area, because England seems to be pretty good about their trees, but I guess
Sure.
was that the weird
urban trees.
So that was okay.
This is in the city. So it's in a suburb, but it's still considered the city, is an urban environment. And they're starting to realize that, well, okay, well, we can't just do anything we want to these old trees. You can't just replace a tree. And that's what's really shed light, was this Banksy art has shed light on the fact that we have to take care of the urban canopy, even more so than trees in the forest, because trees in the forest will, for the most part, take care of themselves. But trees in an urban environment need more care, and they provide us with a lot more than just, good aesthetics. They provide us with heat reduction, improved air quality, and believe it or not, well-being. People who live in areas with a lot of trees have a general greater sense of well-being than people who live in an urban environment where it's a concrete jungle. It really does. And if you've ever taken somebody who has come from a disadvantaged community and taken them to the mountains for the first time, they're just in awe and they're at peace. And it's because they've never been in a space like this. And the trees have a lot to do with that.
Wow. So there is talk now, so now everyone knows. What happened? Is that tree get fully removed, or it's still there?
Oh no, the tree is probably, they're going to watch the tree. If you look at the article, you just Google it, you're going to see that the company that actually did the tree is trying to backpedal and say that.
I bet. Gosh.
They're trying to say the city administrators told them to do it and they hope it'll sprout again in the spring. But there's other people in the article that have said that, well, cherry trees just don't respond well to topping, and it's going to be a touch and go type of thing to see if it survives. So hopefully.
So they're saying it's like an experimental?
Well, it's just a roll of the dice.
Because you did say that fruit trees, it's more okay.
But those are younger, smaller trees that when you cut a smaller tree, it can grow back a lot easier. Mm-hmm. Larger trees, the bigger cut you make, the more
and that's
chance
just
of it
all
dying.
large trees.
That's all large trees. The
Yeah.
more chance it has of dying. And some larger trees, like really old oaks, will actually die back on their own in an effort to try and stay alive a little bit longer. So that's a different type of situation. But that's why, like valley oaks, we have to have permits to cut those. And we have to know what we're doing when we're cutting those, because when they do die back, we have to make sure we don't cut out too much. They're trying to go wider at that point versus going taller. So each tree is different. You just have to know your tree.
So Saturday,
Yes.
if we want to get involved in planting a tree, where do we go?
Go to the Tree Fresno website, and there will be a QR code, and you can just scan that with your phone, and it will get you your waiver, and you can sign up, and then just show up at the location. I believe it's on the Willow Trail. It's on the northeast side of the Fresno campus. So get the map from them, and then just show up, and we'll give you gloves. We'll give you a shovel, rakes, everything you need to get out and help us plant some trees.
Does it matter if it's raining, or is that not a big deal?
If it's sprinkling a little bit, we're going to be there.
Yeah. If it's like a downpour, no, but if it's sprinkling.
Yeah, if it's a downpour, we're probably not going to be there.
But it's not scheduled to be a downpour, so it'll be.
Yeah, it'll probably be light, and we'll probably be out there.
So what's the average amount of trees that we're going to plant, like of one person? Like if I came out there, what would be the average?
We try and break it up, let's say 4 people per tree, just to keep it fun. So to keep many hands make for light work. So believe it or not, we can do these 90 trees with the people we already have coming. We can have this done in an hour. It's going to be that quick.
What time is it at?
We're going to have people get there at about 8:30.
Right on. And then we can just all get involved and all plant a tree.
We're going to teach you how to do it. We're going to talk about it before we get started and give you a quick tutorial. And then we're going to break up into groups. People like myself, I'm on the board of directors for Tree Fresno. I'll be there to supervise and help out the people that are putting the trees in that don't have one of our staff with them.
And then we can go back and see our tree.
That's the coolest part. I mean, people say that they keep coming back doing it because, they did this 20 years ago.
And it is cool to be like, hey, I planted that tree when you go on a walk or whatever.
That's my tree. Or you're driving by, that's my tree.
And people are like, what? You'd be like, no, I planted that.
I planted that tree in high school. Yeah, it was a high school project. I came out with Tree Fresno 20 years ago, and I planted that tree. That's
pretty cool.
And now we have people bringing their children to do the same thing.
I love that. I think that's a great fun thing.
It's a fun day. It's a fun day, and it's not difficult work. We actually make the holes for you, so no one's digging a hole. We're basically putting the trees in, teaching you how to give it the best chance of survival, and filling the hole over, and that's it. And then we do all the staking and support poles.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It's a cakewalk. It's fun.
Thank you so much for coming on my show today. And if people want to keep up on what's going on in Fresno with trees, what our city's doing with different things, what website do we go on?
You can go to Tree Fresno. That's one. Or you can go to Elite Maintenance and Tree Service. We actually have a newsletter we put out, and we'd be happy to put you in that. A lot of our HOAs get the newsletter each quarter.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on my show today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Felt right in the moment, felt right in the summertime. It felt right drinking cherry wine with you. Just wanted to own it, just wanted to take the time, learn all the things that I could about you. Now it's such a mess here, oh we are just stressed here. Used to be so easy with you. Now I must confess here, oh I must confess dear, don't think I'm in love with you. Winter is coming and I don't know what to do, and there's no more use in running.